Okay, so you know how we're always diving deep into all these fascinating topics? Well, buckle up, because today's deep dive is about something that could actually affect both you and your furry friends.
Uh-oh, sounds a little ominous.
Yeah, well, sometimes it feels like the news is constantly throwing new things to worry about at us.
True.
So today we're adding diseases from animals to the list. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom.
Right. Knowledge is power and all that.
Exactly. We're going to learn, we're going to understand, and we're going to be prepared.
I love that attitude.
So our source material for this deep dive is a podcast called Zoonoses. Learn about the diseases that can affect your pets and you.
Okay, so right off the bat, we know this is something that's relevant to a lot of people.
For sure. We're talking about those diseases that can jump between animals and humans. And our mission today is to unpack the most important things you need to know about them. What are the risks? And most importantly, how can you protect yourself and your animal companions?
It's interesting, we often forget that human health and animal health are so closely linked.
Yeah, totally. We like to think we're separate from the animal kingdom, but when it comes to diseases, that line gets really blurry.
It does, and sometimes that blurriness can be, a little scary.
Which brings us to our first topic. Rabies. This one isn't just some old wives' tale, right? I remember a few years ago, I had this encounter with a stray cat.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, it was hissing and acting really strangely, like really aggressive. It gave me the creeps.
Yeah, I bet. Stray animals can be unpredictable.
Luckily, animal control came and took care of it, but it was a real wake-up call for me. Like, wow, rabies is a real threat, even in a city.
You're absolutely right to be cautious. Rabies is one of those diseases that once symptoms appear, it's almost always fatal.
It's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. The World Health Organization estimates that rabies causes nearly 60,000 human deaths every year.
60,000? That's a lot.
It is, primarily in Africa and Asia, though.
Still, that just highlights how important prevention is.
Right. And what's even scarier is that any mammal can be infected with rabies, not just dogs or bats.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves from those classic rabies carriers. It's about being aware of any animal that might be acting strangely.
Exactly.
And that podcast we mentioned, they emphasized how important vaccination is for both pets and people who work with animals.
Absolutely. Vaccination is the first line of defense. And for people who work with animals, there's actually a pre-exposure vaccination available, which gives an extra layer of protection.
It's really not just about protecting yourself, it's about stopping the spread.
Yeah, breaking that chain of transmission.
Okay, so let's move on to another one that's especially relevant for us city dwellers. Leptospirosis. I've heard this one can be pretty nasty.
Yeah, leptospirosis is a bacterial infection that spreads through the urine of infected animals.
Urine. Okay, that's already not pleasant.
I know, right? And the most common carriers are rats. So think contaminated water, puddles, even soil.
Oh, yuck. So, if you're walking your dog and they step in a puddle.
It's a possibility, yeah. And what makes this one tricky is that the symptoms can mimic other things. You might think it's just the flu, but it could be much more serious.
So what, like fever, chills, that sort of thing?
Yeah, but it can also lead to much more severe complications like kidney and liver failure.
Whoa, kidney failure. That's definitely not something to mess around with.
Nope. So keeping your environment clean is really important, but luckily there's a vaccine for pets too.
Oh, good. So similar to rabies, vaccination is key.
Definitely, especially for dogs who spend a lot of time outdoors. And for humans, avoiding contact with potentially contaminated water or soil is the best way to stay safe.
All right, good to know. Now, let's debunk a myth, shall we? We're talking about toxoplasmosis, often called the cat disease. A lot of people, especially expectant parents, think they need to get rid of their cats if they're pregnant. But the podcast said that's not entirely true.
It's one of those things that gets blown out of proportion. There's so much misinformation out there about toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, it's like a game of telephone. The facts get distorted along the way.
Exactly. It is true that cats can carry the parasite that causes toxoplasmosis, but you don't get it from casual contact like just petting your cat.
Okay, so no need to freak out and banish Fluffy to the backyard.
Right. The real risk comes from exposure to contaminated cat feces, so like when you're cleaning the litter box, or eating undercooked meat, which can also contain the parasite.
So basically, good hygiene is our superpower here.
Exactly. Wash your hands thoroughly after handling cat litter, cook your meat properly, and if you're pregnant, maybe ask someone else to handle the litter box duties for a while.
Makes sense.
And routine vet checkups for your cat can also help ensure they're not shedding the parasite.
It's all about managing the risk, right?
Get it.
All right, and finally, let's talk about those tiny but mighty annoyances, fleas and ticks.
Ugh, don't even get me started. I swear my dog is a tick magnet.
I know, right? We all know they can make us and our pets incredibly itchy, but they can also carry some serious diseases.
Exactly. We're not just talking about discomfort here. Fleas and ticks can transmit ehrlichiosis, for example, a bacterial infection that can affect both dogs and humans.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then there's spotted fever, which is a whole group of potentially fatal diseases.
Okay, so we're talking fever, rash, and potentially even worse.
Yeah, it can get really serious.
So regular flea and tick prevention for our pets isn't just about keeping them comfortable. It's about protecting their health and ours too.
Absolutely. And there are so many options for prevention these days. Topical treatments, oral medications, special collars. It's about finding what works best for your pet and your lifestyle.
So talk to your vet and figure out the best plan.
Exactly.
All right, so it seems like the key takeaway from our deep dive into the world of zoonoses is prevention.
Couldn't agree more.
Regular vet checkups, vaccinations, medications, and of course, good hygiene. All essential for keeping everyone healthy and happy.
You got it.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've seen just how interconnected human health and animal health really are. So does this change how you think about the choices you make?
Yeah.
About animal welfare, environmental policy, even urban planning. It's something to ponder. Thanks for listening.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay curious, and stay healthy.
See you next time.